The first fundamental of business is attention. Attention is getting the eyeballs of a lot of people at one time or over time so that way people have an idea of what your product or service even is. Call it brand awareness, whatever. But like attention is, I can't just get in front of 10 people. I have to get in front of 10,000 people. I have to get in front of 10 million people. Once you have attention down, then there's attraction. All of those people are not going to be attracted to your message. All of those people aren't going to be attracted to your brand and who you are. And so you don't know if people are attracted if they're not there. And so that's why attention has to come before attraction.
Yo, here with my boy MJ.
What's good, brother? What's good? How are you?
I'm just pumped now. It's a great day, not only because I get to hang out with you, but the listeners, my mom and my aunt, they get to hear. They get the two listeners. They get to hear greatness, man. Like from a good friend and someone that has taught me just a ton about business. And excited to learn, have folks learn a little bit how to level up, themselves through investing. And I'd love to talk a little bit about investing in yourself, which I know you do a ton. And then just some of the investment stuff that you've been working on over the last few years. But for folks that don't know you, can you talk a little bit about how you, MJ, got your start and kind of to where you're at right now, speaking at colleges, financial literacy speaker and expert? Yeah, I'd love to hear that story and love to hear, by the way, I back up. I was Googling and I saw a proposal on YouTube, old video, you and Amanda. So yeah, your family, your business, love to learn, how folks learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah, for sure. The quick story behind it is growing up, I didn't grow up with much. I tell people all the time that some kids grow up on like General Mills cereal. I grew up on Malto Meal, where you get twice the amount of cereal for half the price in a big old bag, guaranteed great taste, lived
Fire.
in a trailer. Yeah, I think it all tastes the same, right? You have some kids these days who are drinking those honest, organic, juices that they get in Chick-fil-A value meals. And we had Hugs fruit barrels and Kool-Aid jugs and Capri Suns, and Sunny Delight, which I found out later wasn't orange juice. I just grew up a regular kind of lower class guy. I tell people all the time that I didn't have good parents. I had great parents who loved me, kissed me on my cheek, told me they were proud of me, raised me in the faith to love Jesus. They just didn't have any money. And so what happened was when I got to college, I knew that I always wanted to give my kids the good things, but I wanted to, maybe give them some of the things that I never had, and I wanted to learn about money. I spoke to a friend one time, and he was able to get me on at a mutual fund company, and I became one of the youngest mutual fund brokers in the country at the age of 21 years old, which means I would help people buy and sell in the stock market. I was attracted to it because growing up, the way that I grew up, I found that people said, if you want to make money, become a doctor, become a lawyer, make, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. So this mentor of mine was making $30,000 a month legally. And I was like, man, I got to figure out a way to get into it. And he just taught me the value of entrepreneurship, working for yourself. And he only had like a high school GED. Here I was getting a bachelor's degree in engineering in order to make $60,000 a year. And here he was, a few years down the line, but like his income potential just was uncapped. And so what happened was I became a mutual fund broker. I was helping out individuals, with their budgeting, with credit, with investing in the stock market, all of that. And what happened was people would inevitably tell me, MJ, why is it that I left high school and I know that A squared plus B squared equals C squared, which is the hypotenuse of a triangle? Why do I know that the rhombus does this, but the parallelogram does that, and the trapezoid does that? But I don't know anything about, taxes, about budgeting, about insurance, about any of the things that actually matter. And so now I help first-generation wealth builders make, manage, and multiply their money. And I do that in a series of ways, especially when it comes to helping high school and college students. Had a buddy of mine who saw some of the things that I was doing for adults and said, hey, our college has some grant money to serve some first-generation low-income students, and we need to offer them some financial literacy resources. Saw the stuff you're doing online. Would love to see what that looked like. And what was really cool about that was he offered me a price or a quote for what I would give to his students. And this was multiple times over what I was, able to charge individuals, because I wasn't charging the students, obviously. Like, I was charging the college and university. And it was in that moment that things shifted for me to where I realized, wow, I could literally 10x my price, but keep the same thing that I'm doing just by changing the customer who I'm selling to. At the end of the day, like a bottle of Dasani, Quick Trip or Racetrack or 7-Eleven, maybe $1. But if you buy that same bottle at SoFi Stadium, at Cowboy Stadium, now it's $7, right? Not that the bottle changed or the content changed, but the clientele changed. And that all goes to your bottom line, because it still doesn't cost you any more, or it costs Coca-Cola anymore to manufacture it. And so that's a little bit about my story. Now, I have a lovely wife, been married almost 10 years, 2 beautiful kids, 6 and 4 years old. She's an author, influencer, like coach, speaker, preacher. She's way more impressive than me. But we have a lot of fun doing what we do, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I definitely want to link up her conference that's coming up as well. So that'll be in the show notes. I want to unpack that. I want to talk about leverage, because that's what we're talking about, creating something. And then there's so much leverage that you in by being an entrepreneur. But before that, you talked about this mentor. You are rigorous about investing in yourself, with personal development, coaching. You were in Hormozy's mastermind, like just some cool stuff that you've done. That first mentor that you found at a young age, I think a lot of young folks, when I was young 20 something, 18, 19, a lot of my friends thought older people weren't cool. Like, we knew everything. But I was just naive and not enough to like go ask for help and find mentors. For you, can you talk about like how you approach this mentor? Or for anybody listening, how do you find a mentor? And what do you look for?
Yeah, most definitely. I think that first off, you have to make the relationship symbiotic. What does that mean? There has to be a win-win. So this guy owned an insurance agency. I wanted mentorship from him. Therefore, I worked for his insurance agency, commission only, and anything that I sold, he got a piece of. Therefore, he was incentivized to help make me as successful as possible, because the more successful I was, literally the more successful he was. The more money I made, the more money he made. If I didn't make any money, he didn't make any money. And so the big idea there is, how can you create aligned incentives? Many times people are looking for a mentor, but they're asking a lot for the mentor without being able to create much in return. What's really funny is like, speaking of Hormozy, like someone came to him once and was like, hey, Alex, I would, love to work for you for free. And he said, yeah, well, you're still overpriced, because, you still don't offer me the value. Like, there's still so much I'm going to be giving to you that you can't give to me. And honestly, I'm good right now with the team and employees that I have, right? So I think that as it relates to mentorship, there's one element of it to where it's like, hey, would love for you to be my mentor. It would require nothing of you. You don't have to block out time from your calendar. You don't have to take me out to coffee. You don't have to take me out to lunch. Like, I do not want any extra of your time. But what I would ask, because these are the things that I want to do, and I know that you have experience doing them, if you happen to be going into a meeting, I would love to also attend the meeting. I'll sit in the back. I'll shut up. I'll take notes. You won't even know that I'm here. But I would just love to be in the room and learn by proxy that way. Or, hey, I know that you have experience with these things. I would love to have 20 minutes with you. I'm going to ask you these 4 questions, and then I'm going to take any advice you give me, apply it, and get out of your way. And I'll give you an update if you'd be willing to listen. Those are the ways that you approach a mentor, symbiosis, no way they can lose, like creating opportunities like that is what's going to give you the greatest chance of landing the mentor that you're looking to connect with, and having a very clear picture of how they can serve what you're looking to do will be essential as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because, a lot of people are like, well, those people are busy. And what I've found is the right mentor. There are a lot of people that have had an experience. When I was in my young 20s, I had mentors that helped me. And so it urges me, it makes me want to pay it forward.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of really good mentors out there that actually they're actively looking to create some legacy a little bit by sharing their ideas with other people. Mm-hmm. And so as you started to learn and grow, you learn this, you're creating leverage, the right audience. How did you get into the online game? Because you talked about doing insurance. How did you start this course? Why did you start this course? I'd love to hear a little bit about why an online course.
Yeah, most definitely. I have one specific individual to credit with that, who we both know fondly, Jamal Miller. I don't know. Is he going to be on the podcast?
Yes.
Perfect. Yes. Excellent. So,
and that was because of you. You introduced me him, and amazing guy.
Yeah, phenomenal. And so, if his episode airs before mine, then you guys already know how incredible he is. If it airs after mine, please don't compare the two, because he's just absolutely incredible. And honestly, I knew him before he was doing the online business stuff, before he was really in the online business space. But, I was a full-time entrepreneur, and he really just encouraged me, Michael, take the information that you learned while you were working in corporate America, take the information you learned while you were in the investing world, and leverage that to teach and train people. I like I said, I was just an entrepreneur that was just getting started out. I didn't have no money. I was just trying to figure out a way to hustle, if you will. And I thought to myself, man, if I could figure out a way to make money without having to actively do things, that could be life-changing. Man, I remember with my first course, I sold it for $97. And I remember just sitting at a friend's couch one time, and I would start getting $97 hits. And I'm like, oh my Lord, you know what I mean? It's just like, wow. If I can make $97, then I can make $970. If I can make $970, then I can make $9,700. If I can make $9,700, I can make $97,000, right? And so I think that the idea of scaling with systems and processes versus effort made the online course world really attractive to me. And then when you match that with the right customer who has money and need, then it's a game changer.
Yeah, one thing I loved about a few of our calls, you have SOP on SOP. Yeah, you know me. No, I'm just kidding. But you don't just talk about systems is a cool word to use. Right? Mm-hmm. Proven systems. But actually, you do it. You have systems. And what about there's a lot of entrepreneurs that want to launch a course, but they want to scale, but they lack the systems that it takes to really scale, not only profitably, but being sustainable, right? So what is it about systems that you think I guess entrepreneurs are missing out on right now or doing wrong when it comes to systems and scaling?
Yeah, I think that entrepreneurs oftentimes when they're just getting started don't understand the order of operations as it relates to growing a business. So growing up, if you took a math class, you probably heard of PEMDAS, right? To where it's parentheses. You start there, then with the exponent, and then with multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Because otherwise, if you start off with addition or subtraction, then it threw off the entire calculation of an equation. You have to do things sequentially in order. And so as it relates to business, there are the 7 fundamentals of business. The last 3, I believe, are a little bit more nuanced to where they don't have to be in sequential order. But the first 3 to 4 kind of aren't, so the first fundamental of business is attention. Attention is getting the eyeballs of a lot of people at one time or over time, so that way people have an idea of what your product or service even is. Call it brand awareness, whatever. But like attention is, I can't just get in front of 10 people. I have to get in front of 10,000 people. I have to get in front of 10 million people. Once you have attention down, then there's attraction. All of those people are not going to be attracted to your message. All of those people aren't going to be attracted to your brand and who you are. And so you don't know if people are attracted if they're not there. And so that's why attention has to come before attraction. But then with attraction comes messaging. It comes, offer. It comes like, I am the solution to this problem. Then there is acquisition. Acquisition is the process of someone taking the messaging that you've given them and deciding, I am going to give you money in exchange for you to solve my problem. And so there, within all that, if you want to get super nerdy, there's cost of acquisition and things like that. So after acquisition, we have attention, attraction, acquisition. Next, there's fulfillment. Basically, are you giving your customer what they were promised in exchange for the money that they gave you? Okay. And so those are the 4 things. The next 3 are feedback, getting feedback from your customer to see how well you did what you promised you were going to do. Retention, keeping them longer as a customer. And ascension, having them pay more. Both of those ways are ways that you can increase the lifetime value of a customer by either, cross-selling, upselling, downselling, or just retaining them longer at the same price point. You do them both and it creates a multiplicative effect, but they don't necessarily have to happen in sequence like the first 4. Here's what I find to be the problem. Most times people, when they're getting started in entrepreneurship, they're going out of the order of operations. What does that mean? They're thinking, how do I make sure I have something that I can fulfill at scale, when it's just like, bro, you haven't even handled the attraction part yet. You haven't even handled the attention part yet. Nobody knows who you are. You're saying, hey, this didn't work for me. I sent 50 emails this week. And it's just like, no, buddy, you need to send 50 emails before lunchtime every day for 6 months, And so they are trying to figure out, man, I want to do this, but I don't know how to scale, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, well, you're not going to scale 0. And so the big thing here is you have to do the things in order to help scale your business. And that's the challenge that many people have, is that the product, the fulfillment, they feel like they're the world's best kept secret. And it's just like, okay, that's awesome, you and many others. But what's really going to separate you and get you the income that you're looking to make is, how can I get in front of as many people as possible? And that starts with the first, 2 fundamentals of the business.
What would you say the difference, MJs, is between attention and attraction?
So attention, you ever see those people who stand on the street corner and they're spinning a sign for Cricket or Boost Mobile or whatever, and they're free cell phone inside. And, while they're on that corner, they may have 1,000 cars pass them. That is attention versus somebody seeing that message of a free phone and saying, my phone has been tripping lately, and then going into the store. That's attraction. But even if they go into the store, they still may not buy the phone. If they do buy the phone, that's acquisition. And so attention is just mass appeal. Attraction is messaging to get people to say, I'll take a look and see. And then attraction is, this is what I want, and I'll exchange you money for it.
That's so good. And then fulfillment, this phone's got to work. It's got to do what you promised that it's going to do. And then those are the first 4. What were the last 3? It was feedback.
Yep. Feedback, retention, ascension. So feedback is, man, I had a really good experience buying this phone, and this phone is working perfectly. And so now I'm on this Boost Mobile, T-Mobile, whatever plan. Retention is, I've been a T-Mobile customer for 12 years versus 3 months, because if you have a customer for 12 years, you're going to make more on them than you do in 3 months. And then ascension is, now I don't just have a cell phone plan. Now I have an internet plan. Now I have, I bought some AirPods, as well. I'm financing a watch, an Apple Watch or whatever. whatever. And so like ascension is people spending more money with you. Retention is retaining them longer. But that only comes from positive feedback due to adequately fulfilled promises. Does that make sense?
No, makes a lot of sense. And out of these 7, you're brilliant. And people that are listening, they understand. Like this guy, when he started talking about the math stuff, like, yeah, this guy's brilliant. Which one of these 7 do you enjoy spending time on? And is that the most important one, you think, or are they all equally as important? Like, where do you find yourself excited most about in these 7?
I would say what excites me the most about the 7 would probably be the attraction. So
why?
The reason why attraction is so exciting to me is because if you can figure out, I would say attention and attraction. Gosh, it's hard to pick just one, but I'll tell you kind of where my mind is. So whenever I started running my like cold email outreach campaigns for my financial literacy business, what I found was, wow, I could not spend money on Facebook ads. You and I were talking even before the podcast and how I took a social media sabbatical for like a year. I don't have to post on social media. I don't have to keep up with an algorithm. I don't have to be pointing at words, dancing to music. Like, I don't have to be on LinkedIn. I could literally be off the grid in a way as it relates to the typical way people try to generate leads for their business. And if I just run a systematic, I send 200 emails a day and make, 200 cold calls a day, then now whenever I'm booking appointments from that, which would be attraction, right, is booking the appointment, it's like, wow, I am creating the opportunities out of thin air. Like, I'm creating opportunities out of like nothing. And therefore, like, the return on investment for that time becomes exponential, right? So I think that at the end of the day, like I do just fine selling people whenever they need whatever I'm selling. I do just fine, do great actually fulfilling and getting great feedback. But I think that the attention and the attraction pieces are what are the most difficult to master. But when you master those, then it makes everything else, as long as you fulfill people on their promises, like it makes everything else better. And then what's really awesome is that it becomes a cyclical machine. Because guess what? Whenever you work really hard for attention and attraction, you're working really, really hard to generate these leads, and then you fulfill appropriately, then what happens is not only do you get the benefits of retention for those clients, but then those clients and their feedback become your attraction messaging.
So good.
So therefore, now these clients are telling their friends and their colleagues about you. They're referring people to you. So where now that most difficult part of business is being taken care of for you by clients who have paid you. And so now it becomes free marketing, right? Like the reality is that they could shut all of their advertising down today and Chick-fil-A would still make boatloads of money because it's God's chicken and everybody loves it, right? So the big idea here is like the various fundamentals of business will feed into other areas that will create multiplicative growth for you. And
that is a machine. I mean, most people, they talk about systems, but they don't have any predictable way. So this is exhaustive. You've been doing this for a long time. It takes probably quite a bit for folks that are like, hey, I got a Google Sheet, Google Doc. Like, where would I start to track this stuff? Not attract, but track all of this work that I'm doing, the feedback, what would you recommend for them?
Yes, for sure. It depends on which stage of the business that they're in and which fundamental of the business that they're focusing on. But I can just give you a high level overview. Like if someone's like, man, I just want to get better at attention. Like I don't have, attention locked in, and I know that I need that before attraction and acquisition and fulfillment. Then there are 7 ways, I believe, to generate attention. There is cold, outbound, which is cold emails, cold calls, sliding into people's DMs. That's one way to generate attention. There is paid traffic, Facebook ads, Google ads. There are internal referrals, right? From the clients. That's what we talked about earlier. There are joint ventures and strategic partners. Basically finding people who are serving the same clientele that you're serving, but in a different way. So, for example, you'll find that, like, back in the day, they, I don't even know if they still have it, but like Taco Bell and Doritos, like, had a partnership for like Doritos Locos Tacos. Yep. And it's like, okay, Doritos and Taco Bell, they're probably serving the same type of client, but they are serving them in different way. Like, Doritos doesn't have ground beef, and Taco Bell didn't have like seasoned tortilla shells. And so, like, now we're going to create a way to where I do this, you do that, but we're serving the same group of people, strategic partners, right? Then there are affiliates, right? To where you're incentivizing people to, connect with you so that way, if they slide you a referral, then they get compensated for it, right? And so basically, there are many ways to go about all of those things. I would choose one and get good at one of those things for attention. If you have a lot of money, then I would do paid ads. If you are kind of low on cash, then I would do outbound, cold email, cold call, because those systems are less costly than paid ads, but they just scale slower. You're going to be looking at maybe like a 90-day turnaround on something like that versus a paid ad, which can get you conversions within a few days, depending on how much you're spending. And so there's that. If it's attraction that you have a problem with, then it's understanding like messaging and like I would say like 7 factors of an irresistible offer. And we don't have to get so deep into it, but, risk reversal, guarantees, like certain things that go into an irresistible offer that will make someone really interested in it. Acquisition is just sales. That comes down to like conviction, competency, knowledge about the product. Feedback, fulfillment is doing what you promise. Feedback is you can use a Google form to say like, hey, how would you rate what you're doing on a scale from one? What I gave you on a scale from 1 to 10. If it wasn't a 10, what would have made it a 10? You can also do that for testimonials, right? And say, hey, what stopped you from doing this yourself? Where were you before? Where were you after? And if there was somebody who was considering me for this service and they were on the fence, what would you tell them? Those 4 questions in and of itself can build out a testimonial. Yeah. And so what I would do to any person is understanding the 7 fundamentals of business, and then the sub-points of each fundamental will help you find, where am I stuck? And then when you find where you're stuck, and then you hone in on a subcategory of a fundamental, then once that gets fixed adequately, you move on to the next fundamental. And as you move through the fundamentals, your income goes up and, your business gets better.
Bro, like I felt like, man, MJ's, this is better than Chat GPT. This is better than GPT-4. Like, it's just so good. Like, and it's like, they got these 7s a bit. Then that's 7. Oh, we got 7. And I'm like, man, this is just insane value for the folks that are watching. We have folks that are maybe just starting out, and then folks that like they have an offer, but they haven't figured out the attraction. They don't have the traffic, or vice versa. You have some people that have an audience. Maybe they've got 10, 20,000 people, and maybe they're not getting brand deals. They're like, I want to create a product. I want to create a course. But I just don't know, or I've created a course and it's just not selling like I thought it would. And they haven't created what we call an offer, irresistible offer, no-brainer offer, Godfather offer, whatever you want to call it. You actually helped me early on really understand the value equation. And the way that you articulated has been a game changer for what we do. When you look at offers, what are the things that you're looking for to make this like this is an offer that's going to convert.
Yeah. I think that there are like 6 elements of an irresistible offer. Okay. So I obviously my engineering background, just the way that I think, is very analytical. So I'm like, how can I create frameworks around things so that I don't get stuck? Right. Because at the end of the day, if I'm whether I am not willing to do the work, that's up to me. But I at least want to know what work needs to be done so that way I know like how to get unstuck if I find myself to be there. If someone says, hey, I have this offer or service that is not selling, I'm thinking to myself, okay, which one of these elements, if not more, are missing? First, language of the offer, right? Basically, you need to use your customer's own language to express their pain points and the challenges that they're facing. What's so interesting is, have you ever seen an advertisement, bro, to where you read some copy on a page or something and you thought to yourself, holy smokes, were they just in this conversation I was having with the homie yesterday? I was just talking about this. I was just feeling this. I was just thinking this. One of the reasons why paid ads and Facebook ads are so effective and Amazon ads is because they are taking what you are already thinking and saying, and then they're saying, we have a solution. And so when you do that, people trust themselves. Therefore, when they hear someone else talking in their language, they inherently trust that person as well. And so if I am speaking to you the same way you are speaking to you, and you are speaking to yourself in a way that you trust, then now you're going to inherently trust me. But what happens is people put copy on a page and they think, this sounds beautiful and fancy, but it's not really the way that their customers are speaking or talking to themselves. And therefore, it doesn't make the offer as appealing. So that's the first thing, language. Second thing, illustrating features versus benefits, right? So a feature is what it is. A benefit is how it's going to help them. The way I like to say it is a feature is the what, the benefit is the so what, right? So instead of, hey, I'm just thinking about one of the things I think about is like a dog commercial, like a dog food commercial, right? It's just like, hey, we use omega-3s and blah, 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 blah in this dog food. That's a what. But what's the so what? The so what is that way your dog can live a long and healthy life and you have your furry friend for years to come. That way your dog's lifespan increases by, 40%. That way your dog, when they get to their elderly years, still has a vibrant coat and they can still see, right? It's not just a what. Many times people are like, oh, my product has this, is this, is this, is this. And it's just okay, great, but what's the point? Why is that even important to your end user? And so oftentimes people will list features, but they'll forget the benefits. And so you need to tie your benefits to the features. Third thing, social proof, right? Many times people will come to me, they're like, Michael, how do I do what you do? And the first thing I often tell people is do it for 10 people for free and get them amazing results, because you need the conviction that what you're doing actually works. And whenever they have testimonials on your page and someone goes onto your page, on your landing page, and they're able to see 10 different people who had an amazing result with you, then it starts selling itself. I think about even Jamal. He has the One University, and he does a Pray for Your Future Spouse challenge. And I remember when he started that challenge, to where people, preparing for marriage, blah, 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 blah. Now, every time he does this challenge, people under their own volition, they're like, hey guys, just want to let you know, in the Facebook group with 200-something thousand people in it, I got married, I did this, I did that. I'm like, bro, do you even need to advertise anymore? Probably not, because you have so much social proof that now people feel there's a high likelihood that whenever I pay this person the money, they're going to give me what what was promised, right? If you want to make it even more irresistible, you can make it, you add risk removal. That's the next element, right? So we talked about social proof. We talked about features versus benefits. We talked about language. Is this too much, bro? Because I can go higher level.
This is this is a masterclass on business, not just scaling a business, an offer. This is like a masterclass, and I don't want it to end. I was literally thinking like, I got to do this again soon because this is a straight clinic. Keep going, bro.
Okay. And so anyway, those are the elements we've already mentioned, but then there are more. Next one, risk reversal, right? So someone sees this social proof. They're talking in their language. They're understanding the features versus benefits. Now you add in risk removal. Hey, you'll get this result in 30 days or your money back. If you're really confident in your offer, this result in 30 days or double your money back. If you're really confident in your offer, this result, in 60 days, or we'll work with you for free until you do. Basically, you're removing 14-day free trial. Like, you're removing all risk, like if you hate it, just send me an email with the subject line, "My dog ate my homework," and I'll give you your money back, right? No questions asked, right? Like, you just figure out ways to just create a risk removal for someone to say, "Oh, well, at least if it doesn't work, I'm not out any money," right? I'm not, so boom, risk removal, right? 5, overcoming objections. So even as you're speaking in their language, you may say things like, now you may have worked with a coach before. You may have done this before. You're probably thinking, "Oh, do I have the time for this? Do I have this? Do I have that?" Boom. If you overcome all of those objections with your messaging, then now the person's saying, "Oh, well, I had these concerns, but now my concerns have been allayed," right? And then the next elements of that are like bonuses. Like, hey, if you get this, buy my book, then you get my course, you get my masterclass, you get my coaching, you get this, blah, 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 blah. You add bonuses to this offer. You add urgency to your offer, which is time-based. It's, hey, this is only good for the next 72 hours, Memorial Day, weekend flash sale, whatever. Urgency is time-based. But even within urgency, there is seller-based time urgency and user-based time urgency, right? Seller-based time urgency is kind of what I just mentioned to you, to where it's just like, oh, I am imposing urgency on you, which is easier, but less effective than user-based time urgency, which is how much longer are you going to deal with not being the weight you want to be? How much longer are you going to be, struggling with this or that, to where now it's the user is imposing a time-based deadline on themselves, which is stronger marketing. It requires higher level messaging and copy, right, but like it creates, the result that you want, and they become a stickier client, so higher lifetime value, as you retain them. And then there is scarcity, which is not time-based, but it is quantity-based. I have 20 of these left. I have 25 of these left. Only 5 left to go, sold out, So like what I have found after all of that is if someone's like, "Man, Michael, my offer isn't selling for some reason," I'm like, are you implementing all 7 elements of an irresistible offer? Because if your offer is not irresistible, if it's just like a nice to have versus a I must have this, then now you open yourself up to be commoditized versus desired. So that's how I would look and evaluate an offer.
Yeah, this is just like I said, a master class. I feel like I have to send you like a 997. I'm like, sign me up for this, bro? Like, what's next? Like, but I think it's fascinating just to comment on that. Like, one of the best ways to teach is to have people are just looking for a plan or a framework. So notice how there's like literally a step-by-step plan. Like, I am confident now that if I work with MJ, like I know there's a step-by-step. So many people's messaging, it's like it's all over the place. This is specific. It's inside of a framework. To take it a step further, you name this framework or plan, and this is just powerful. This is powerful stuff here. You're a weapon, and I'm just thinking like, what's MJ's gaps? Like, you sound so locked in. There's a hunger and desire for what you do, obviously, to be as good at what you do. It's not some of it's God-given, but some of it's like I want to do that thing where I wasn't given. I want to give it to my kids. But where are your gaps, bro? Like, what's an area where you go, man, like I really need God in this area?
Yeah. You mean like in business,
Just
personally, just in life?
I just think I think I would say personally, where obviously the personal seeps in to the business, and we all have gaps. I've learned where do you struggle most in your life, and what has been a struggle that God has come in that you have to rely on God with everything for?
I feel like God wants to take my business to a certain level, and that I am relationships away from that versus strategy away from that. And oftentimes, the way that people learn about you is through things like social media, but that's not something that I do a lot. Like, I'm not posting every day or things like that. And so I think that for me, I wonder to myself, like, man, how can I get access into certain rooms or to be around certain people or to even be privy to certain events or to like meet people who are doing kind of what I'm doing? Like, I don't necessarily have someone who has gone before me that's like, hey, Michael, here is my framework for growing your total addressable market, in the financial literacy space or in whatever space. Here's how you do this. Here's the strategy that I did. Here's this, here's that. Like, I don't necessarily have that. Like, I'm kind of figuring it all out myself. And I mean, obviously I do business coaching and I serve as chief marketing officer for people at a fractional level, depending on what they need. But it's like, I just am thinking to myself, like, man, what I do, like from a fulfillment side for my like financial literacy business or whatever, it's so good. And I know how to reach a lot of people at scale, but my total addressable market, like who I'm really called to reach, like, I don't know if I've tapped that out. I don't know if like how to, appropriately transition into like new industries. I think it really comes down to like mentorship, bro. Like, I'm a mentor to many, but I am not a mentee to many, and I think that is oftentimes the curse of those who are gifted in certain areas, right? And so that's what I would say.
And do you think about that often, or are you the type that like, I think about it, just brush, or does that ever get you in a spot where you're like, man, like I don't know where I'm going, God, where do you, what's next? Like how does that play out in your life?
My honest thoughts around that are like, when I've had success with mentorship, many times God brought it and he'll bring it in due time. And if it's not here today, then there's a reason. It's something that I desire, something that I want. It's just, will it happen? Like, how will it happen? Where do I need to be? Who do I need to connect with? How can I add value to someone's life, as well? So I think that I'm a big giver.
That's good.
And so, I'm not only am I a big giver, but I also oftentimes hesitate on taking because I don't want people to see me as a taker. And so I'm naturally a giver, but I will often over-index on giving and less on asking. And sometimes I feel like it holds me back. So I don't know exactly what the solution is to that. I didn't really even truly realize that was a problem until, you and I are talking right now, and I'm thinking to myself like, damn, like, that's not good. But, I wanted to give you an honest answer. I think that I could have given you something cookie cutter, but I wanted to give you something that, it's kind of like raw, fresh off the press.
100%. And when we do 2.0 interview 2, we'll come back to that and see how, you're leaning into God for that one. Is there a time, man, over the last few years? Because when we first met, you were doing a couple things. You had this financial literacy program, and then you were doing some marketing, and then you had done some just a few different things over the last few years. Can you talk about a time where maybe God, you really needed God to kind of help you, give you an answer, which sometimes I feel like he never does. And he just kind of wants you to do your, but like where God stepped in and played a significant role in helping you overcome something in the business or even in your personal life, bro.
I'm trying to think if there's, gosh, there's been so many things. I'll tell you this, like, geez, bro, like 3 months ago, it was so tough. Like, business was slow because of the seasonality of business. Here's what happens. When you start a business, you don't even know Like, is my business running slow because I don't know what I'm doing, or is it just a slow season, right? Like, at the end of the day, Halloween costumes, sales for that, like, really pick up in September, right? Very few people are buying Halloween costumes, in April, as we're recording this. And that's not that. And if you are a rookie entrepreneur, then you would think to yourself, oh man, like, it's April. I'm not selling any Halloween costumes. I don't know entrepreneurship. I'm failing at business. And it's just like, no, like, it's the season of business. Like, it's not the time. Pineapples don't grow in the winter, And you can't go against Mother Nature from a, plant-based standpoint, or from like the nature of business and what you're offering to people. Like, you can't really go against that. You just have to ride that. And in the times that are high and that are great, then you have to, in those moments, be very wise as you steward your funds, right? So like, even as it relates to now, like, I think I have maybe like 6 different business bank accounts, like, to where it's just like, I have this for operating expenses, this for profit, this for this, this for this, this for this. This is how I handle my personal expenses, right? To where it's just like, okay, I kind of got caught by surprise last year because, I'm still, fairly new in the industry that I'm working in, but I won't be caught by surprise this year, right? So many times it's the tough moments that teach you things that you wouldn't learn otherwise. And it's through those moments that you learn how to just be wiser. And so I would say that, like, God teaching me about business seasonality and to not quit your Halloween costume business in April, but like, wait. And then if you get to October and you're not selling Halloween costumes, then that is a indication of the health of the plant that is supposed to be producing fruit. That's the indication, because you're like, oh no, now we're in season and it's slow. That's an indication that something needs to be fixed. But before then, it's like, okay, well, I may be getting a lot of attention for people, but my attractive messaging is not attractive in this season at this time.
Yeah, it's really, really good. You said you had amazing parents, and you want to give your kids that financial wealth build, all that maybe you didn't get, and you're building that. And not only are you building it for yourself, but you're helping so many other people as well, and young people in high school and colleges, which is incredible. What are you most proud of when it comes to what MJ has built?
I am most proud of the revenue we've been able to generate. Not that I'm a multi-cajillionaire, but like, there are times where I will make more in a month than I used to make in a year at a full-time job. And why that is important is because as my revenue has grown, my faith has grown as well. I was just talking to a buddy about this. I was like, man, I was working at Bank of America. I was making like 48 grand as like a retail banker, 60 grand a year with bonuses. And it's like, like, I remember when I first got into full-time entrepreneurship, I was like, man, if I could just make 5 grand a month, if I could just make 60 grand a year, like, and live the same lifestyle I live now, but working for myself, oh my gosh, you can't tell me anything, right? And then I remember when we hit 6 figures, and I was telling man, I was like, oh my gosh, babe, like, I don't think that, I don't even know people in my family who made $100,000 in a year. And now we're doing it full time as entrepreneurs. I think, that year, it definitely wasn't our first year of business. Maybe our second, it was like 120 or something. And I remember asking her at the end of that year, I was like, babe, do you ever think that God would allow for us to make $180,000 a year as an entrepreneur? Do you ever think that he would allow us to make $15,000 a month? She was like, babe, I feel like if we just keep doing what God's telling us to do, like, I feel like he can do even more. I was like, babe, that's crazy. That's crazy. And now it's just like, I don't know, if I make $15,000 in a month, I'm like, what do we need to fix? And so it's like, so it's less about the number and more about now I don't have to believe God for $15,000 a months anymore. When if you were to go back in time 5 years ago to where I was just getting started in entrepreneurship, that Michael couldn't believe God for anything close to that, right? So it's just like, it's less about the revenue and the numbers and more about just realizing I'm living in an answered prayer every day. And that, man, if God could do what he's done up until this point, I feel like I've kind of overcome certain mental barriers to where now it's just like, it's so much easier for me to trust God. It is easier for me to trust God for multiple seven figures than it was for me to trust him for 6 in the beginning.
Holy cow.
And so
that's a massive shift.
It is. Because what people don't realize is that making your first $100,000 is way harder than making your first million. Way harder. Like the first $100,000 is just, it's a booger because you don't have the money to like pay a staff or a team of people to help you. And so everything that you're doing is on you and yourself, and you're trying to find product market fit, and you're trying to do this and you're trying to do that. And it's just like, it all depends on you. And you're looking for $100,000 opportunities, If someone's like if someone were to ask me when I first started my entrepreneurship journey, hey, Michael, how do you want to make $100,000 this year? I'm like, okay, well, I have a $500 product, $500, I think times 2,000 people times 200 people is $100,000. And so if I can sell 200 people a $500 product, and then I, divide that 200 by 12 months in a year, then I think that comes out to like 18 people or whatever, a year or whatever, a month or something like that. So I need to sell 18 people a month, $500 product. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I would have thought getting started. Yeah. Now I think to myself, if someone's like, hey, Michael, how would you make $100,000 this year? I'd be like, I'd sell one person a $8,000 a month package and like, ta-da. So it's like, so I mean, it's just a very, very different way to think. And I think who I've become, even beyond the revenue, now that I think about it, is probably who I'm most proud of.
All right, NJ, before I ask these last couple questions, want to give you an opportunity to let folks know what you're working on. You got some cool stuff. There's ebbs and flows in seasonality for your business, and so you do different things. One of the things we talked about before this, I don't know if it's okay to share this, but the LinkedIn stuff you're doing is insane. Yeah. I've got a lot of friends that I know that need to be doing LinkedIn more. But how can people connect with you, follow what you're working on, and maybe when season, for the literacy stuff's down, maybe hire you to do some consulting?
Yeah, for sure. So LinkedIn is kind of like, it's interesting because it's not posting on LinkedIn, or it's really just extracting leads from LinkedIn for a business. And so I could extract it from LinkedIn. I could extract it from a Facebook group. Like, it's more so just using like those resources to create like outbound email campaigns for people who are typically service providers, have a product that they're selling for at least $5,000, and they're probably making $250,000 a year. I think that for those individuals, it's typically a slam dunk solution for them that I offer, to where basically they're outbound email campaigns. I'm not talking about like email newsletters. I'm not talking about like nurturing a list. I'm talking about at scale, reaching out to 200 people a day who are in your target market that would be interested in buying your service, like booking appointments for you without having to use Facebook ads. You don't need virtual assistants. You don't need to have a social media. You don't even really need a sales funnel. As long as you have an offer and like a Calendly page, then, we could make some magic happen. And so that's something that I work on. And then there are times where people are just like, man, I just need like a chief marketing officer for like 3 months that can really just help me, just grow and scale my business, advise me or whatever. I do that as well. So I do all those, all year long. But Yeah, especially in the winter, late fall, early winter, late winter months. Like, it's a great way for me to help people when I have a little bit more time on my hands.
Absolutely. And as you can see, put on a clinic when it comes to business. And so if you want to take your business to the next level, highly recommend checking out the show notes where you can link up with him. Also throw his Instagram on there. Well, bro, what is your definition of holy hustle?
My definition of holy hustle is putting in the work that you can while trusting God to believe, while trusting God to do what only He can, right? Ooh. So I'll say it again: putting in the work you can while trusting God to do what only He can. And the reason why that's important is because many times people try to do all the work themselves, and they don't rely on God at all. And then on the other side, there are some people who are literally lazy because they're just waiting on God to do something, and neither are healthy, right? It reminds me of like the Thessalonians, right? The Church of Thessalonica, to where the believers found out that Jesus was going to be coming back, and so they just stayed in their houses all day and just prayed and waited. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's good to pray, but you actually have to work, you know? So I think that doing what you can while trusting God with what only He can do is the definition of holy hustle.
Fire, man. That is amazing. If you had the opportunity to time travel to hang out with young MJ when he's starting his business, wants to become an entrepreneur, what advice are you telling him and encouraging him with?
I am telling him that the only thing separating him from the income that he desires to make is marketing, and to shift from B2C to B2B. Shift from selling to consumers to selling to, higher level institutions and organizations. The reason why you don't believe you can do that now is because of the marketing that you don't know. And so focus all of your efforts on generating phenomenal results from people at the B2C level. Do that for about 3 months. Do it for free if you have to, but just get a bunch of testimonials that you can leverage in the higher spaces, because when you do that, you'll be able to charge 10 times the money for the same exact thing.
MJ Pittman, this has been a masterclass on deep business strategy. Super grateful for you, your friendship, and all you do for the kingdom, man. We love you, brother.
Well, dude, I appreciate you, Alejandro. I think what you're doing for the kingdom is phenomenal. I've seen some of the work that you're doing with like pastors and Facebook groups and just creating digital disciple makers, if you will. And man, I'm just so in your corner. I'm so proud of you, man. Love you dearly. And I appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast. Hopefully it helps some people, and maybe we get a chance to do a part 2 sometime if I get invited back.
Bro, we're going to schedule the next 3 very soon. Love you, bro. And thank you all for listening in.